My name is Rob Greenfield, and I am a dumpster diver. Now, at first, that might sound a little bit crazy, maybe even a little bit gross, but there's actually a very important message at the bottom of these dumpsters. You see, I'm an adventurer and an activist on a mission to affect positive change on Earth, and I tend to go about it in some pretty interesting ways. This is my first bike ride across the country. The idea was to travel across the country on a bamboo bicycle and leave as little of an environmental impact as possible. In 104 days of riding, I used just 160 gallons of water, created only 2 pounds of trash, plugged into just 5 outlets, turned on not a single light, and learned how to live an environmentally friendly life. Now today is a monumental day for me because it's my first shower in 1,000 days. A lot of you might assume I would stink like some sort of swamp monster, like this guy. But I was bathing in natural bodies of water like lakes and rivers and waterfalls, or in leaky sources of water like this fire hydrant in Brooklyn. The idea was to really get into people's heads and get them to think about the crazy things that we do on a daily basis, the crazy amounts of water we use. Right now, I live off the grid in a 50 square foot tiny house in San Diego without a single bill or debt to my name. I found that the more simply I live, the more freely I live. And last fall, I landed in Brazil without a penny in my pocket on a mission to travel across the continent of South America. I found that by traveling with no money, I'm forced outside of my comfort zone and really get to see the world as it truly is. A lot of people say that the earth revolves around money, but I've seen otherwise. Now, back to the dumpster. Not only do I dive into the dumpsters, but I actually eat out of them too. This is a dumpster banana. This is one of the many bananas that I got out of the dumpsters of London last night. Who wants some? Over there. It all started with that first bike ride across the country and this dumpster right here. I was crossing the Sierra Nevada mountains and decided to roll around the back of a local grocery store and see what I might find. Well, what I found was a surprising amount of what looked and tasted like perfectly good food. And from that point on, I was hooked. City after city, I would roll around back of the grocery store to see what there would be. And I found that dumpster after dumpster after dumpster was filled to the brim with perfectly good food. I was just blown away by what I was finding. This is a dumpster score in Nebraska. And this is what I found in one dumpster on a typical day. It was enough food to feed about 100 families. I was eating like a dumpster king and managed to even gain 5 pounds while riding my bike every single day. So even when I wasn't in the dumpsters, I was thinking about what was in the dumpsters. I just couldn't get it out of my mind. So I decided to do some research. And I found out that we waste a ton of food in the United States. By a ton, I mean $165 billion worth of food per year. Now, to put that into a little bit of perspective, that's more than the budgets for America's national parks, public libraries, veterans healthcare, all the federal prisons, the FBI, and the FDA combined. But still, that's just a big number, and most of us can't really understand issues like this through a bunch of numbers. We need to really see it to believe it. And I wanted to show everybody what I was finding, but I knew I couldn't take everyone to the dumpsters with me. So I decided to bring it to them. This is the food waste fiasco. In cities across America, I went out dumpster diving and took what I found to a park nearby. Usually, I just had 1 or 2 days to dive as I was cycling across the country. This is 2 days worth of dumpster diving in Madison, Wisconsin. Now, before each city, I would use Facebook to find a volunteer that could help me out with a car, since I couldn't carry all the food on just my bicycle. This is Chicago, Illinois, 1 or 2 days out at the dumpster. Before each city, I would call the local media, the news stations, the newspapers, let them know what I was doing, tell them I'm diving into the dumpsters, and they pretty much always came out. So when I was in Detroit, I woke up on Sunday morning and I had an event planned that night. But I was worried. There was going to be some major media there, and I hadn't even started diving for the day and had an event to put on at 5 o'clock that night. So when my volunteers came and picked me up, I had a pretty big knot in my stomach. I was worried. All that worry was for nothing. This is 2 hours of dumpster diving in Detroit. In Cleveland, I went out dumpster diving for 7 hours the night before the event, and this is what we took to Cleveland Public Square. Now, it was really hot that day, mid-July. The fruit flies were swarming. Most of the food had already been spoiled, and this is just the good stuff that I managed to pull out. My next stop was Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull it off here. It's kind of a more rural area, and I'd only done big cities so far. When I rolled up in town, there was about 8 people waiting to hit the dumpsters with me, very excitedly, and we had 2 cars. This is what a night of dumpster diving in Lancaster brought together. This is 10 dumpsters in total. A few days later, I rolled up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at 9 o'clock p.m., was out dumpster diving an hour later, and was sound asleep at 1 a.m. with this score. This is rolling up in Philadelphia using Google Maps to find the grocery stores that are nearby and the car of someone that I met on Facebook. By this point, I had realized that I could roll up any day in nearly any city across America and collect enough perfectly good food to feed hundreds of people. The only thing that really seemed to be limiting me was the size of my vehicle. This is New York City. In the United States, we waste about half of all the food that we produce, which means we produce enough food to feed about 2 entire American populations, all while 50 million Americans are food insecure. And the face of food insecurity is not laziness. We're talking about children at school who are too hungry to concentrate, elders who are stuck at home with rumbling tummies, and families who are working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. To me, it does not make sense to have so much food going to waste while so many people are hungry. Now, my next stop was Burlington, Vermont, and I was very worried. We're talking about maybe the most environmentally friendly city in the country. Surely their dumpsters would be empty. Well, this is what me and a couple of college students pulled together in my short visit. Los Angeles has the second largest homeless population in the United States. This is the food that's going to the dumpsters. This is one day out in the dumpsters of LA. Now, during this time, I also learned that food waste is actually one of the most pressing environmental issues of our time. When we waste food, we don't just waste the food. We waste all of the land, the water, the fossil fuels, the labor that was used to grow that food. And because we waste so much of it, it's one of the leading causes of rainforest deforestation, depletion of fish in the ocean, and biodiversity loss. The grand finale was America's finest city, San Diego, a city where 1 in 4 children are food insecure. This is the food that's being sent to the landfill while those children are wondering where their next meal is coming from. Now, at these fiascos, my intention was never to feed this food to anyone, never to give it away. But time after time, people would come up to me and ask, hey, can I eat this food? Well, of course I'm going to say yes. But before I even had a chance to finish setting up the demonstrations, the food was dwindling. We're talking about $15,000 worth of food fed to hundreds of people out of the dumpsters between all of these fiascos. And at every single one, nearly every morsel of food was taken home at the end. Young and old, rich and poor, people from all walks of life were eating out of the dumpsters. Now this, to me, was proof enough that this food is still good. This is moments after I told people you can eat this food in San Diego and Balboa Park. So during this time, I learned that what I was actually finding is the tip of the food waste iceberg. What I was finding pales in comparison to what is being wasted at farms before it ever hits the grocery store shelves. This is Tristram Stewart, founder of Feedback here in London. They do farm-level research, investigation of how much food is going to waste. Here he is standing with a giant pile of bananas that are going to waste in Ecuador because they're the wrong shape, either too much like a U or too flat, or because they're too big or too small. Here are thousands of cauliflower going to waste because they're either too big or they have a slight tinge of yellow or purple to them, not the white that you're used to seeing at the grocery store. And here is a truck full of parsnips, one of many that this farm wastes on a weekly basis. These are all being wasted because they're the wrong shape, color, and size. So by now, a lot of you are probably wondering, why is all this food being thrown away? Why isn't it being donated? And I was wondering that myself. For the longest time, though, people just kept telling me, well, the grocery stores can't donate it because they'll get sued if someone was to get sick, and there's actually a law preventing it. So many people were telling me that I just assumed they must be right. But then I learned that they are actually protected from liability by the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act, signed in 1996. So they are waived of any liability if someone was to get sick off the food that they donated to a nonprofit. The law is not against it. It actually protects them and encourages it. But still, this is Sue Happy America, where you'll get sued even if the law is on your side. Again, that's what people were telling me, and for about a year, I just kind of believed it. Then I found out that not a single lawsuit has ever been made against a grocery store. That is a University of Arkansas School of Law study. Not a single grocery store, restaurant, food caterer, not once, not anybody. And it turns out the solution is there too. Thousands of food rescue programs exist across America that will actually go to the grocery store and pick this food up. All the grocery store really has to do is set the food aside rather than throwing it in the dumpster. So again, I ask myself, why aren't the grocery stores donating this food? Why is all this food being wasted? To me, it comes down to two main things. Either there's a lack of knowledge, the grocery stores don't know that they're protected and that no one's ever been sued, or there's a lack of care. Most of these grocery stores are in the business of making money. They practice one bottom line, and that is profit, not the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. Now, the good news is that thousands of grocery stores across America are donating food to nonprofits, and there's actually a huge network of it. However, it's only 13% of all the excess food that's being donated. I'm certain that it doesn't have to be this way. I am certain that grocery stores can stop wasting food and we can feed people in need. So, what can grocery stores do? It basically comes down to the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. First comes reduce. Now, the thing is, as I said, we produce enough food to feed almost 2 entire American populations. So they can't just donate it all because then those programs would just have to be throwing food away. There's so much of it. So what they have to do is reduce the excess in the first place. The biggest way they can do that is by relaxing their cosmetic standards and basically putting those crooked carrots or those oblong apples or those big fat potatoes in the aisles rather than wasting them. By doing this, we can drastically reduce food waste. Another thing to reduce is they can mark down products in the store. Now, here's something: sell-by dates, suggested sell-by dates, best-by dates, expiration dates, a lot of mystery around them. A lot of people assume that these dates were made by some sort of regulatory agency like the EPA. These dates are made by the manufacturers, and they're really about peak freshness, not about safety. And they're more about protecting the brand than keeping anybody safe. The FDA even has on their website the number of days, weeks, months, or even years food is still good for after those dates. Suggested sell-by date is a suggestion, and best-by date does not say bad after. After reduce comes reuse. To reuse, they can repurpose food within the store. So if there's fruits that are a little overripe, they can make juices out of them. If there's veggies that are a little bit wilted, they can turn that into soup in the deli. And then, really importantly, donate the food to nonprofits. This really comes down to just calling a local food rescue program, a food bank, soup kitchen, and setting it up. I believe where there is a will, there is a way. And lastly, after reduce and reuse comes recycle. They can feed the food to animals to make more food, recycling it, or as a very last resort, compost. Now, a lot of people would assume you compost it, it's fine. But composting only recovers about 1%, a tiny fraction of all the energy that was used to make that food in the first place, a very minuscule amount. By doing these basic things, grocery stores can have dumpsters that are completely void of food. My days as a dumpster diver would be long gone, but I would be very, very happy because my message isn't to go out dumpster diving, it's to not put food in the dumpsters in the first place. So, what can you do? We can't put all the blame on the grocery stores because, after all, a lot of what they're doing is just trying to meet consumer demands. So it takes us, the conscious consumers, the conscious buyers, the conscious people, to demand the grocery stores to do the right thing, to do the ethical thing. One huge thing you can do is demand ugly produce. Tell the grocery stores you want to see those crazy carrots, or those weird-shaped apples, or those peaches that look like a heart in the aisles. And then, if it's there, buy the weird-looking ones. Another thing you can do is you can ask grocery stores to donate, not dump. You can tweet them, Facebook them, email them, or go in and talk to your manager. One conversation could literally lead to hundreds of people being fed week after week. Imagine how good it would feel knowing that you made that happen. Now, the thing is, before you go out and tell anybody else, like the grocery stores, what to do, it's really important to self-reflect and make sure you're leading by example. Check your garbage can and make sure there's not food in there, and lead by example. Another thing you can do is you can grow your own food. Because when you grow it yourself, you're a lot more likely to appreciate it. When you pick this tomato off a vine or an apple out of the tree, you're a lot more likely to eat it because it didn't just cost you 50 cents or $1. You grew it. And with that, you can support local farmers because local farmers are connected to their food. They don't see it as a couple of dollars or cents on a spreadsheet. They want people to eat their food, not for it to be wasted. And then you can also feed it to animals or compost it and turn it back into more food. I believe that we are at a tipping point for ending food waste, and with citizen action, we can solve this. The excitement inside of me tells me that our generation is going to drastically reduce food waste and hunger in our time. Join me in reducing food waste and hunger by telling grocery stores to donate, not dump.